Okay, so this is my recap of Kindred, Season 1, Episode 3, Furniture. So, Luke ends up bringing Olivia to Dana, who has been locked into the attic overnight. And they talk for a bit, and Olivia's basically saying, I can't be caught in the house. Her and Margaret had something happen between them some years ago, and she is not welcomed on the property. And of course, Olivia questioned as to why, and Olivia tells her, well, actually it has something to do with you. She didn't really go into much detail, but he does come back around later in the episode.
Me getting caught up in this house is a real risk for him. Margaret and I are not on the best of terms.
So she was like, so Olivia's like, who is this white man calling himself your master? She was like, oh, that's Kevin. He's just a friend. The last time I jumped, he was holding on to me, and so he came with me.
A friend. He was holding on to me when I got pulled back.
She was like, oh, okay, so you can take people back and forth. So this is when Dana learns that the overseer, when she disappeared the last time, the overseer disappeared too, but she has no idea where he went. She ends up telling Olivia, like, when I went back alone. I don't know what happened to him.
Oh. What'd you do with him?
What do you mean?
You took him with you to the present.
And so, basically they're saying that they need to figure out what the connection is between her and Rufus. And she asked her, like, do you have a connection with Rufus? And she's like, well, no. This is Olivia saying no. She was saying how when she came back, when she jumped, it was some massacre that just happened, and she was hiding in the woods, and some medicine woman found her, and she started thinking she was going crazy until somebody mentioned Eastern Maryland, and she realized that Dana's father and both her grandfathers were from Baltimore.
Reggie's father and mine, your grandfathers, they both came up to Brooklyn together from Baltimore.
And so she feels like Rufus might be their ancestor, but she doesn't really know on which side.
Wait a minute. My father had ancestors here? Could Rufus be one of them?
And so Kevin ends up coming up because he ready to go. And so this is when he's introduced to Olivia, and they say greet each other, and then they end up asking him if he could distract Thomas and Margaret so that probably Olivia can sneak out of the house. But one of the slaves, she requested a dress from one of the slaves, and so they brought the dress up. So they're trying to get Dana changed. So Rufus is still ringing that bell, calling for Dana. Thomas is at his wit's end because they're having this party, and guests are starting to arrive, and he's making a bunch of noise, and he don't really have a whole lot of patience for Rufus anyway.
This is inconsolable, and it is unacceptable. We have guests beginning to arrive.
So they're trying to get together so they can get Olivia out of the house, but it was too late. Margaret rushed up to the attic. She sees Olivia, and she starts going crazy, calling her a witch and all this kind of stuff.
Witch.
So they were trying to figure out. So Thomas is asking her why she's there. They're saying that we needed a medicine woman because Dana wasn't feeling well, and she was dealing with women problems. So he wouldn't ask too many questions. So they left, and Thomas ended up asking Dana if she can go downstairs to tend to Rufus, and she did. So Thomas and Kevin are now talking, and Kevin apologized for all the mess, and he said don't even worry about it. He's okay with Olivia because she's delivered him a great amount of stock, meaning slaves.
Olivia has delivered a good amount of stock for me.
So Rufus and Dana are talking, and so Kevin rushes in, and he's trying to talk to her, and he was like, they kept her pregnant. And so I'm assuming he's referring to her as in Sabine, who they sold in the last episode. It was terrible. It was, yeah.
They think you're pregnant. Can we go right now?
And he's ready to go. And she's saying that she has to find out this connection between her and Rufus, otherwise it's going to keep happening. They need to understand what's going on. So around this time, Margaret comes in with the priest to pray over Rufus. So after they do that, Margaret, the priest, and Kevin go downstairs because the guests are starting to arrive. So Dana is still there, and she's talking to Rufus. And he admits to starting the fire. And he had burned some curtains, and he was like, he thought that his father was going to kill him.
Thought my daddy was going to kill me when I threw those curtains in the hearth.
Olivia, and he ends up telling her that Olivia, the falling out between them was because before Olivia, all of Margaret's previous pregnancies had ended in miscarriages or stillbirths, and so he's her only successful pregnancy.
Daddy made her mama's nurse when I was in her belly. because none of Mama's babies before ever survived.
And so the night that Dana appeared in his nursery, Margaret accused Olivia of summoning the devil. So that's why she thinks that Olivia is evil.
Little Mama says that Olivia summoned the devil in my nursery to take me away.
So 2 of the children came to get Dana to take her to the cookhouse to talk to Olivia. So Charles and Isidore and Priest go downstairs. Kevin and Margaret go downstairs, and Charles, Isidore, and their Brad Tempest arrives.
Hello, Margaret.
Good day to you, Charles. Isidore.
Hello, Margaret.
And you can clearly see that Isidore and Margaret do not care for each other. Isidore is the sister to Thomas's first wife. Dana is now talking to Olivia, and she tells him that I don't think that he has any more control over. He doesn't. He really doesn't know how he's doing it.
He doesn't seem to have any more control over this than we do.
The last, times that it happened, he was in danger. And that you can see something sparked in Olivia's mind. And so, you can start hearing the bell of Rufus calling for, Dana. So now we go back to the dinner. Now it's time for the entertainment. The entertainment that Margaret, scheduled with these 4 slave children dressed in these crazy, whatever, dancing around, making all this freaking noise. So after the entertainment, she was like, now it's time to show appreciation. So all of these people are throwing candy and whatever else on the floor. And these children are rooting around on their hands and knees, getting stuff like animals. All this time, you can see Kevin standing around. He is horrified. He feels like it's like any minute now he's going to vomit. So Dana gets to Rufus' room just in time because Thomas is about to strike him because he's making all this noise. And she basically said that it was my fault. I was in the kitchen. I lost track of time. And, basically it was her fault.
I was in the kitchen and I got distracted. He was just calling.
So Charles, so we find out that Charles has a secret. I don't know if he's gay or bisexual, whatever the case may be, but he ends up making a pass at Kevin.
Oh, don't get jealous, Mr. Franklin. You're handsome too, though I'm sure you've been told this before.
So, Dana, she's still up talking to Rufus, and Cyrus ends up bringing him some food. And unfortunately, he was followed by Tempest, this brat.
Thank you, Cyrus.
And so she was like, well, who made this doll? It was one of the slaves that gave it to him. And he was like, oh, one of my friends. So she was like, you still play with slaves?
You still play with your slaves?
And then she made some comment about slapping Dana, and Dana was like, only if I can slap you back.
Do I get to slap yours back?
So, of course, she got pissed and she screamed and ran downstairs like she had actually been hit and told her family. So, of course, they rushed upstairs and they're trying to get at Dana, and it was a whole bunch of nonsense. And so they eventually end up leaving. He ended up taking his daughter and they left. And he went to find Isidore. So, back at this point, Thomas is upset. He was like, what happened between you and Charles? And so he ended up telling him that he touched me.
He touched me.
And so they gave him an idea that how he's going to blackmail Charles out of getting his land. So they eventually said, it's time for us to go. We need to get up out of here. So they end up going to the cookhouse, and we hear that Isidore talking to Sarah. I think Sarah was her midwife. And so she can't stand Margaret. So this is where the furniture comes in. She basically said that Margaret sold her sons for the furniture that's in their parlor.
She sold my sons for that furniture, Isidore.
And so they parted ways. And they eventually end up going to Sarah's house, Olivia's house. And then she realized something. She said, "It's something that I realized when I was talking to you, that I don't think that it's just fear only. I feel like in order for this to work, you have to actually believe that you're going to die."
I think he has to be more than just scared. I think he has to believe he is going to die.
And so she had given Dana a cup of tea. And so she had told Dana that she had put poison in the tea, and that Kevin need to get her back to their time so he can get her help. And so she starts having a panic attack or having some type of attack. And that's pretty much how this episode ends.